Did. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next Imposter Syndrome stream.
You did it.
I did it. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this. That's the end.
That's it.
I finally said the
up.
name of the stream better than ever. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Today, Red and I are going to talk about Imposter Syndrome, our Kickstarter, live right now. $5 gets you access to our Kickstarter zine.
Yep.
It's going to come with articles, a game, some supplementary game design content with that game, maybe some fiction, lots of stuff.
Definitely some fiction.
And this stream actually is going to focus a little more on exactly what backers can expect to get. Not literally exactly, right? But a much better idea, some clearer, more concrete ideas of what backers can expect from if they back for $5 for Imposter Syndrome.
Exactly.
You can find the link in the description if you are curious. So, Cassie, tell me a little bit about what backers can expect.
So there's definitely going to be some fiction. I'm going to have some stories of a character who is basically a goddess, an immortal god that lives on this planet, basically. And she is eventually called a paragon. I'm like, where do I start? Alright, so anyways, I feel like the story I'm going to tell is her trying to go and get her power back that has essentially been stolen, or someone got from her, and then she realized, oh, that was a bad decision, ultimately. I'm also going to have a story about Grismek and Varga. I think it might be the beginning as to where Varga, his Grismek's wolf companion, comes from, because that's all about the werewolf's curse, basically. And then, of course, last but not least, I'm going to be showing another character called the Alchemist right now. He does actually have a name. Devante. There we go. Who is an immortal and decides that maybe he's tired of being immortal and he needs to go back and he needs to go about getting his heart back. Yeah. Eventually.
Okay, interesting. So, 3 different people you'll be potentially introducing, or I guess 4 if you include Grismek and Varga, right?
Right, they're together, yeah.
But so Grismek and Varga,
yeah,
Devante the Alchemist,
yeah.
and the Paragon
Yes.
of language, basically, and her story.
Right, because she's going to introduce a group of people that are very important to the world. Yeah. She is able to give some semblance of immortality to select people.
And how does she do that?
Let's see. So, literally, it's by taking their heart. There's going to be some kind of ritual about it, around it, and...
There's some magic she can cast, some magic she knows,
yeah. But basically, she is going to keep the literal heart safe.
So, like, she somehow, like you said, part of this ritual, Kali Ma style, potentially, take their heart out, but the person still lives, but they change.
Right, I'm not sure how hardcore I want to go. I like it for, like, drama's sake, having it turned up to be just that dramatic that she has taken the literal heart. And I think that makes it all the more interesting when the alchemist Devante does end up wanting to get his back. And we'll see what the Paragon thinks about that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
she might have opinions.
And so there are benefits to giving up your heart in this way, right?
Yeah, it's... Because of immortality, it's easy to become, I think, detached from others. And I'm going to show that, with that story, and that there is a desire for some attachment. His is a love story,
Okay, yeah, so he kind of has to get his heart back because otherwise he's not really... He can't maybe be with the person he loves, so to speak,
Exactly. Or, worse, he's going to just see her die.
I see, because he'll remain immortal. Too. Yes, it's one of those where it's like, no, he would rather live out his life with her as compared to being immortal and staying alive the whole time.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's see, what else? So, there's those guys. Besides that, I also want to talk about, obviously, creature design. I'm going to be throwing in some prompts as well. And I wanted to briefly go over one that I tried to do today. For myself as an example.
Yeah.
My
So when you say
Yes.
prompt, tell me more what you mean there, like from a character creation or creature creation standpoint.
Sure.
What backers what do they expect from these prompts potentially?
Some of these prompts, we'll see how original I can get, but I'm going to be looking at real animals in the world and using those create prompts to then try and make a completely different creature. So is that
Yes, that's
good? All right,
perfect. Yeah, that's absolutely, that's awesome. Yeah.
right? So for instance, today I was looking at the eye. So the prompt that I made for that, I kept it pretty broad, was a nocturnal creature that hunts using an appendage.
And how do you spell I for people that want to look it up?
AYE.
AYE. Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's AYE. Yeah.
It's an interesting lemur, and it has at least like one super long finger that it'll tap along trees and whatnot, basically listening to see if there's any bugs that have actually bored into it. And once it finds something, it'll find the little opening that the bug made and then reach in with that super long finger and grab it.
With like the same finger, they kind of reach it in there and they grab them out.
Of course, like all this info I have on the eye is from a long time ago, like just from memory. So I don't know, maybe they have different ways of hunting.
Oh, and that's fair. But in general,
Yeah.
that is even better if it's not real. But I'm sure that it's that sounds really cool.
Right. So I had you have a question.
Yeah, no. You were sorry. You were gonna describe
Continue.
the example, right? Yeah, continue,
Right.
please. Yeah.
So with that in mind, nocturnal nocturnal creature, I decided that it's going to be an omnivore-leaning carnivore. It's going to live on rocky hill, shrub, mountainsides kind of land. And I was like, well, what does it eat? And I didn't want it to just eat like regular animals. I was like, I gotta make something new for it. So I decided to make a creature called the moon-eyed sheep. And they're actually going to be a nocturnal sheep as well. During the day, they actually, with their fluffy wool, should kind of resemble a rock as far as the color looks. So during the day, they're just resting.
Yeah.
Let's see. And at night, they like to go down into the ravines, maybe into these little canyons, wherever their favorite plant loves to grow. But that's where this predator likes to hang out. Because what it has is has a special whiskers on the front of its face, of course, that will actually bend forward and then release a chemical pheromone that is going to resemble the smell of their favorite plant food. The whiskers also allow this creature, which actually doesn't have the best night vision, to feel when one is in pouncing range, basically. So the sheep would ideally walk by it or maybe walk under it, because I imagine this creature might drop down out of trees if it can.
Yeah, because you're not exactly sure what it is yet, just that it has these whiskers.
Right. I only got to spend maybe like an hour and a half plus a little bit of research, so there's still a bunch to figure out, but I'll keep doing that. So it's going to be an ambush predator, basically.
Yeah, okay.
And I thought that as an interesting little thing, the way that it has the chemical smell, basically, of those plants, is that it will eat some of it, and that stuff ends up, like, digested and then put into its little whiskers.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's awesome.
So maybe, this would be interesting. Every so often, just like my little cat, she sheds her whiskers. This creature might shed its whiskers as well. So depending on where it's living and what it's eating, what it's hunting, it might try and eat different things to have different smells.
Yeah. Like it's not just the one smell; it's whatever it eats. It
right.
can kind of
something that's attractive.
be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, to whatever might be in that area. But that also allows it to not be coupled to one specific plant, but be like more diverse.
Yeah, it can move around. It has more mobility. Yeah.
And in general, that's what I really like about this idea of meaningful creature creation is what we like to call it.
Yeah.
And considering not just what a creature looks like and how much damage it does and how difficult it is to hit, how many hit points it has, but also considering where it lives, how it interacts with where it lives, what other creatures are there that it interacts with. And I think from that standpoint, you can tell really cool stories about creatures that are more realistic and more tied to the world.
Right.
And by doing something like that, now I can place this in any place. It just has to eat something that something else eats,
Right, you could, I don't know, it could show up anywhere.
Yeah. So, you know, and especially if you're using a game, you'd be able to very easily put it into whatever you wanted.
Exactly. So yeah, that one is just an example of a prompt and basically where I went to get this kind of creature. So this one didn't have too much research involved, except I did start looking at, like, what do I want this to look like? And I decided that it was going to be mammalian. So I'm thinking of looking at I'm going to look at the spectacled bear that lives in South America for some inspiration. I was thinking of maybe, no, I don't want to make the back leg smaller. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
We'll see. It has to have nice big jaws because it's going to get like one chance to bite its prey, and probably, you know, claws or something to just hold it down.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
That's the focus, basically. So I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. So basically, people would get these prompts, and the prompt would allow them to create a creature of their own using kind of the abstractions of the creature you created. Sort of like, make a creature with this type of appendage, or can you tell me more about that? How do you envision the prompts looking in the end, you know?
Pretty similar to what I did. Let me actually.
But I mean, like, so the prompt
exactly.
itself describes what? I don't know. Maybe that question doesn't make sense.
The prompt is just a way to get the imagination going.
Yeah,
it's a good tool to spark it, I guess.
Exactly. I guess that's what I'm saying. Give me a concrete example of what the prompt would say, if you have that. Do you have that?
Nocturnal creature that uses an unusual appendage to find and catch prey.
Perfect.
There
That exactly. This broad thing where you described this sheep and the ravine and all of these things, but these are things you brought to it.
Yes.
You know, the prompt. You effectively took a creature, the made a
prompt based off of that real world creature, and then tried to make something else out of it.
Exactly. So not only will you have these prompts that you can go through if you back this, you know, you'll have those, but you'll also have your examples of these interesting creatures using the same exact prompts.
Exactly.
Which I think is really cool. Yeah. Really cool. Yeah.
So those are things. Of course, I'm going to be doing a article on imposter syndrome, what it is, what you could do about it, and why it's a solvable thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely something you can live with and something you don't have to feel constrained by. You
exactly.
know, you'll, as we pointed out, you'll get a chance to highlight some of the better parts of it, how to identify it in yourself, and in some ways how to use it, you know, sort of for good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for the moment that was it. I was thinking of a creature design game for a while, but I've realized that it really... I mean, you can do like a roll table or something that would be really fun, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about that one.
I think what you landed on is really cool because while it's not a game in the traditional sense that we mean it, I think prompts are a game in themselves. I think that's more the direction you want to go.
They are.
You know, rather than a game. Not that we can't in the future, but I think that's a cool thing about doing this Kickstarter, and I was talking to Red about it, where it what I like to call put us under liability. It made us really consider these things more than we ever could if we were just doing this casually.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it forces us. And so we appreciate everybody that has supported us so far and that is interested in what we're creating. But I really like that because it's requiring us and allowing us to firm up what we want to give. Yes. And so I think that's a good decision, you know, backing away from that and going, no, but it's going to be prompts because I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have a lot of really cool creatures, you know.
I think it'll be even better, and you know, I'm gonna lay out like things you need to consider as it's social, what's in its environment, what does it eat. You know, I'll make sure to list those kinds of questions to consider.
Yeah.
Try to cover those bases. But I know you had some ideas that have changed as well.
Yeah. So again, we have been thinking a lot, and I've been working on a game I was calling All Else is Rubbish, and I have some really cool ideas for a complicated system of plane maneuvers that allow two people to, I say two people, but you would be, you know, it's plane-to-plane combat, but it's a very personal thing where when you're fighting an NPC effectively, you are engaged with them very closely, and it's a very technical dance of who's going to get a slight advantage over the other.
Right.
You know, and I had this really cool idea in mind for this game, and I even have some really cool rule ideas that I'm excited to even share, but I actually, I was talking to a friend about it, Jeff Doty, a really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he gave me feedback that I don't even know if he realizes it, but was just really, really, really good. And it's funny because it wasn't even feedback. We were just talking about it, and he said, it seems really cool. And he pointed out that, it's a little bit easier sometimes with a game that's so specific, so niche, so to speak, right? The main thing you're doing is flying these planes and doing these maneuvers and fighting each other. It's kind of this dance.
Yeah.
So Continif Maker says, so this is a video about a game, not the actual syndrome. So, to address that real quick, this Kickstarter, we named Imposter Syndrome, and a large part of it is discussing the concept of imposter syndrome. And so along with the Kickstarter for the $5 if you back, you'll get an article on imposter syndrome, the actual concept.
Yes.
We talked about it in past videos as well. So while this is not necessarily only about imposter syndrome or only about a game, it's actually about both, I suppose.
Right, and basically the zine that we're making is going to be a bundle of just a lot of stuff that we've been wanting to produce. Yeah.
Exactly. So a game will be included, but exactly, a nice addition. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So, so in this case, there will be, the way I'm describing this of this game, it will be the initial version. It'll be something for you to sink your teeth into, maybe play test and look at it if you want. And I'll continue to develop that. And of course, you can, continue to follow it and everything, but it allows us to sort of really bear down and create something and put something out and hopefully find people that are interested in those things and that we can get feedback from. So
exactly.
But so I was talking to the about this game that I'm making for Imposter Syndrome. And
all else is rubbish is the original concept.
Exactly. And the friend of mine I was talking to, like I said, just kind of said, it's a little easier to craft a really thematic experience for a game that's so specific. And it actually reminded me of a few games that I have. There's a game about soldiers in World War I trapped in the Carpathian Mountains. Ooh. So the game is not about surviving. The game is almost like a game to see how you die. It was like they were sent there with no supplies. It was in the winter. It was really cold. It froze over. You were kind of deserters, and it's like, all right, well, are you found by, enemy patrols, or do the wolves get you, or do you starve?
Yeah.
But it's this RPG where it's very, very specific and like very historically accurate, let's say. So it's in the Carpathian Mountains. I don't know exactly where they are, but I want to say they're around Poland or, they're in Europe somewhere. But the idea is...
it's actually like northern Italy.
Okay, yeah. But basically, yes, right?
Look
okay,
it up.
Fair. But there's this area where these soldiers went to, and famously there was like a mix of specific soldiers. And so they have these like roll tables of names that were are like very accurate for the time, whatever.
Oh, wow.
But in these niche games, Romania too. Okay,
Yep.
Yes, right, all right. So they're like really big.
So I was
underestimated their
incorrect.
size.
You were, I think, well, hold up. Where's this map? Oh, Jesus. Romania, Slovakia,
Perfect,
goes through a
yes,
little bit
okay.
of Ukraine. Yeah.
So, and I think this battle had a lot of people from all of these countries, so it was like the all that to say, the book was very thematically well done. And while my friend's feedback was, oh, this game will be really cool, like those, what it made me realize is I actually am interested more in creating something a little broader.
That makes sense, because if it's too niche, it's just too niche sometimes.
Exactly. I think I could create something I really loved, but that doesn't mean everybody else will love it. So instead, I'm going to broaden it out a bit and use a lot of other ideas I'm working on to instead create sort of an island hopping, plane flying around, monster hunting kind of game. Where you're
maybe planes, some kind of flying mechanism,
some sort of flying vehicle. I like the idea of like kind of maybe a relatively simple propeller plane, maybe powered by some sort of magical resource. We were talking about that earlier.
We watched Poco Rosso recently, and it was just the plane battles in that are so cool.
Yes,
Studio Ghibli animation,
really good,
so
absolutely.
awesome.
And so we made a lot of really cool stuff at Absolute Tabletop, and I don't know. I have never really had to be the person that had to be the sayer. Hello, Hellmage is here too. Matthew's
What's
here.
up,
Good luck with your
guys?
creations. The content sounds interesting. Yeah, thanks for checking it out. Thanks for
hanging out,
asking
Marky.
questions. Yeah, and chatting. Hellmage, yes, we're doing great. It's going very well. But so I've decided to broaden it a bit so that I like the idea of a game where you have sort of a home base and you have to decide where you want to go. Like you make decisions about what monsters you want to go find. And I say monsters, it's a bad idea. Creatures. And
and why creatures? Because not all of them are going to be nasty.
And I like that idea, yes.
Or mean automatically.
Exactly. And another way to put that from a mechanic standpoint that is a little more concrete is I like the idea that there will be decisions you can make so that you can just go kill creatures and harvest whatever about them, and that they can be very helpful and worth a lot of money. But also you can go sort of non-lethally, let's say, harvest things about creatures. And it's maybe not worth as much and it's a little more trouble, but it's another option. Now, you do that, you can then bring back these goods as well as anything else you find, right? I can see stories and rare artifacts being on these islands that nobody goes to, these overrun islands with all these creatures.
I've been so excited about talking about the creature side of this with Nixon here. Because, like, maybe we'll get to have the bluff mechanic.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah. So, and yeah. So we were talking about a lot of things, but this game... It made so much sense to incorporate some sort of creature aspect into the game I was creating for Imposter Syndrome, because part of what we're talking about is this meaningful creature creation.
Yeah.
And so much of what I want in the game is creatures that live in the world, that interact with the world, that, interact with the people, and that it kind of makes sense. There becomes this, I don't know, a bit of a symbiosis. Obviously, some part of it is you going to kill creatures, and I don't call that symbiosis.
Depends on player style.
Exactly. I like that. But because it's about creature creation, I want to introduce the creatures. But I think we can also broaden it to feel more like what we're used to in a role-playing game. And I don't know, hopefully potentially draw more people, to play a game closer to what they're a little more used to, as well as, I don't know, allow us to really look at creatures, Zach Nilsson.
Creatures with agency.
Love that,
So I do want to explain the bluff mechanic.
Okay, yes, please, because that's what you're really excited about.
That's what I was trying to get to.
No. And I know, and I was going to... But okay, so all of that to say, you're going to these islands, you're going to these creatures, but that means you're not always just immediately attacking them. So tell us about the bluff mechanic.
So I'm not... we're not entirely sure yet how this is going to work, but I got some ideas. I'm sure Nixon does as well. But basically, I just remember this video of these, I think, Maasai people.
Yeah, warriors.
I hope I'm just saying that right.
I think so. I've heard it's Maasai warriors.
Maasai
it's
warriors.
Not that, but I mean, yeah.
Basically.
Don't trouble yourself.
I know, right? And they are there's 3 of them standing in a row, and they just are walking up on this pride of lions that are all on top of this carcass, And they just intimidate these lions away, these aggressive, huge lions. Like, it's just 3 dudes. It's amazing. But they did it, obviously, without actually hurting the lions. So there should be some kind of role or mechanic so that, depending on the situation, maybe if you need to get into that kind of situation, you can scare, another animal away.
Exactly. And so we described maybe a situation, right? There's yeah, please.
Or unlike, in Safari and whatnot, in those videos that you see where an elephant charges somebody and they just stand there. It's fine. And the elephant doesn't hit them.
Right? The bluff works,
Yeah.
Literally, creatures, to some degree, they are not trying to attack you. They're not evil a lot of times, just creatures in the world.
Animals don't want to actually fight and risk themselves getting injured because there's infection, there's broken bones. That's serious,
Exactly. And so enough that you can literally scare them. And so not every creature, but...
Not every creature, not every situation.
Right, but in this type of game, the kinds of patterns I want to see in this game are, okay, so we need to harvest this honey. There's like this, in real life thing, there are bees that make hives really high up on
cliffs, yeah.
On cliffs. It's actually like psychoactive honey to some degree. I forgot about that aspect of it, right?
They didn't, I was watching a video about it. They didn't explain it very well.
Oh, okay, so ignore that because, that was... But they had this really difficult time to climb up these cliffs in the jungle. There were like a few people that still could do it, and, bees stinging them all over. But they're cutting down these large pieces of... cone of this hive, and bringing it down. And it's just this whole big process, right? They're harvesting something from these creatures.
Right.
This is that symbiosis, kind of. And... I really like that idea, but I like the idea that while you're doing that, there are other creatures in the area, and they come around. Oh, the mad honey. Yes, that's what it was. The mad honey. Thank you. Yeah. And like you said, they didn't touch on it enough in the video. I was curious.
Right. Maybe the one that I saw anyway.
Yeah. But they did call it that. I do remember. But so I like the idea that another creature is in the area, and you could just go kill it if you want. But there's another option. You can find what you need, or like you can study the creature enough to learn how you could bluff it. Right? You don't know immediately that for a T-Rex you need to not move. I don't know if you're in Jurassic Park. I don't know why I used that example.
They have good eyesight. We know that now.
Not in Jurassic Park,
Not
right?
in Jurassic
Exactly.
Park,
Not in those days.
Not in those days.
You know, when you get old, sometimes you just say things that are old man things.
God, now is the time for paleontology. I don't know if anyone's been aware, but I've just seen videos of just like new stuff all the time. With new technology, it just means that we're finding more.
That is a really good point. Like there's just more and more and more. Yeah.
And that meaningful creature creation, look at the past too. There's just some interesting designs like the Thylacoleo. It's a marsupial carnivore, and it just has these wild, chunky teeth.
Yeah,
not fangs, not like. Oh, it's weird.
And I really love the idea of exploring what creatures have existed and can exist, just what has been possible in our world, on our Earth, and to apply that, like you said, through these prompts in a way to creatures in other worlds. And I really like stocking this world with creatures, and it's a lot more dangerous than I'm just going to go. Like, I like the idea, okay, you get in your vessels and you go to these islands and you land and you only have so many supplies, right? Think like Darkest Dungeon, for example, where you cannot stay there too long. You cannot afford it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You can turn a corner and run into something that can ruin your whole day and make you have to retreat, Ooh. It's kind of like that style where it's not like, okay, we go in and we're going to get them, we're going to kill those, and then we'll just grab the stuff. It's like, no, it's all a little more dangerous than that.
Yes.
Otherwise, people would be here doing this very easily. It'd be like an MMO where everybody's there trying to get the honey, killing the stuff. You're waiting for it to just to respawn,
Exactly.
So I'm imagining this game a lot more where it's a bit of a broader role-playing game. You still do have a vessel that you get to customize that, so you're going to these different islands and you're harvesting different things, learning about more monsters, researching more monsters, getting more for your codex, so to speak. And then you're coming back to the base. You're spending time researching, unlocking more abilities to, hunt monsters and go do things, be more efficient, progression mechanics to continue to get better to do it some more.
And that means we're going to have to formulate some quests for this as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any, in mind?
Yeah, so I have some examples. So Matthew says, ye old animals are great for inspiration. There are fossils and indigenous stories of a 6-foot-tall, weighed 430 pounds, 530 pounds, had huge claws and would apparently often fight people. Right? There was something stepping to people.
Yeah, indigenous what?
Oh, no, there are indigenous stories, yeah. So
just something, was it like a person or a bear?
6-foot-tall. Oh, 6-foot-tall kangaroo.
Yes, okay.
Perfect, okay.
And
Gotcha.
I totally wouldn't be surprised if that is actually out there.
Oh, because that's a marsupial, right? I forgot.
Yeah.
You said marsupial, and I forgot what that meant. That's like kangaroos.
Non-placental mammal, basically.
Don't be so technical.
That's something different.
Okay, but that's interesting.
It is still non-placental.
But that's not exactly,
But it is actually a mammal, so I think that is it. Yep.
Well, so I want a game where you, I want a game where you go and you see non-placental mammals and you don't necessarily want to kill them, but they might have something you want or be protecting something you are interested in getting, or, I don't know, something to that effect.
Right. They're just they're the kangaroos, they're eating the leaves of the tree that you need to get to, that it has the berries, and they're like, this is our space, no thank you.
Right,
to kick you away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and I didn't think about this, and okay, so you said some examples. We'll wrap up here in a second, but you mentioned examples of quests. Yeah. So I like the idea that, okay, I mean, here's a classic simple one, really, just off the top of my head. There is a creature that killed somebody, killed somebody's parent or somebody. Basically, there's a creature with a bounty on it, a named creature.
Yeah.
There's a specific tiger that has a scar over its eye kind of thing,
Creatures with stories.
Exactly. But I also, like I said, I really like this idea of a pattern where, okay, you want to get this creature. Mm-hmm. So you need this special thing to put on your blade. And once you put that thing on your blade, well, to get that thing, you need this other creature. And so you have to go to this other island to get that. But in order to get that, you need to, and it becomes, that sort of begins to create quests. And especially when I describe it that way, it sounds almost like just horrible and contrived. But in a sense, you are instead, if you view it the other way around, you start at the beginning working toward this big thing, and you kind of slowly over time work toward it and get better and upgrade, and it becomes really cool when you can eventually get there.
And what are we working towards? It was like
So
there's islands.
Yes, you would be working toward, in this case, you'd be working toward a bigger, like, better creature that you can capture or get some part of or, kill or...
Basically legendary creatures.
Let's say. So, like, yes, the end of this quest line is getting the major creature, the main one, that you've been hunting this whole time. Matthew says, love the idea of going on quests to learn how to lure beasts out of legend. Or be out of beasts of legend. Thank you, sorry.
That would be cool.
Exactly, and I wasn't even thinking that, but that exact sort of thing where it's like, nobody knows how to do this. But you heard rumblings, you hear rumors, in these pilot taverns. Obviously, everybody's pilots are, I don't know, I really like that, aviator taverns.
There would definitely be aviator taverns.
Yeah, right, I don't know, drinking and flying, but...
We were also discussing that, like, there's going to be sky islands.
Yes,
right?
I like that being part of the progression as well, as eventually, instead of just going to the islands in the water, there's islands in the sky with different creatures.
Of course. And then maybe even some particularly large ones might have small cave systems or openings or something.
Yes, yeah, because I really wanted the ability to have, while you're flying in these vessels, still the ability to, like, fly between, rock formations and outcroppings and stuff, but if you're imagining... the way I am, where there's like this big sea, kind of Caribbean island chain sort of thing. What are you going to fly between? But I like instead, if you're in these sky islands, there are like, floating rocks, and there's maybe a current of these islands orbiting, so to speak. Hellmage says, ooh, sky islands offer a neat way to have massively variable ecosystems relatively close to one another. I didn't really think about that. That's a really good point as well. I'm imagining them having like their own set of currents and everything, and just floating above the other ones and just being a part of it. I don't know. I just like that idea. I think it's pretty cool.
Some of them are going to be like the Pandora planet, but we're going to have some others be different environments.
Yeah, right, exactly. You just, you get some...
Think of
like you said,
Magic the Gathering cards. Sky Islands is what I imagine, and Pandora.
Right, because if there's Avatar. I think that's cool. So yes, I really like that idea, but so I think there's a lot there for exploration and really cool creations, but I also think that there is a way, the other aspect of this, so to speak, is using the creation of this game to help craft what is being called the sort of game design cookbook of like, okay, I want to do this in my game, how do I do it? And the point would be to put together this skeleton, this framework of a game where you're in vessels from these islands to go to these places with quests to do these things. And in a sense, you could take it and take out all of the stuff that I've written and keep all the mechanics and just put your own stuff in and have a whole game.
Awesome.
And that would be totally fine, And so that's the hope with the pairing of the game itself and the cookbook.
Got it. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so this has been really cool. I think we'll wrap up here. Thank you, everybody that joined us, everybody that is watching not live. Imposter Syndrome is still live right now on Kickstarter. $5 gets you a bunch of little things, a game, some fiction, some creation prompts,
stuff,
some articles, all kinds of things that we are going to release just for a simple price, because we're looking for people that want to support us and want to be part of this journey and see how all of these things sort of shape up. So if you're interested in any of the things we talked about today, back us on Kickstarter. That's the way to get it. You can find the link in the description. Yeah, and that's your best bet.
And thank you. And you'll also be basically funding art for this scene as well.
So
I'm going to be doing part of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Any
including
money we make,
those little icons, the owl and little Mothman dude.
Right, exactly. We love the idea that Cassie called them sort of cryptids, and I love that idea. But like these imposters living among people, and sometimes you can feel like you might feel like a Mothman in a hoodie or an owl person.
Right, you just feel like kind of out of place.
Yeah. So they became sort of the mascots of the Imposter Syndrome zine concept, if you were curious and you stuck around this long to hear about it. So
thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining us. Everybody have a wonderful one. Spanish Chair, we'll see you next week for the last live stream.
Yeah, see you then.